Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest iteration of our Housing Connection webinar series. If you're unfamiliar with Housing Connection, it is our initiative for housing and financial counselors, as well as nonprofit affordable housing developers. And usually it's a yearly training that we put on every fall. But in the interim between those bigger trainings, we like to provide some smaller webinars here and there just to keep people up to date on resources and other helpful things throughout the year. Today, we're doing financial literacy in honor of Financial Literacy Month. And with us leading our webinar today is Ann DiPetta. Um, and we're really excited to have her with us. She's got a lot of experience. I'll let her go into the details, but she's really great to work with. So, Anne, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Thank you. All right. So, hey, everyone. I am Ann DiPetta. I am a consultant, and I have been working in the housing industry since 1992. Now I've really dated myself. Um, in a variety of ways. But I do a lot of work for not a national nonprofit called NeighborWorks America. So I train for them and I develop curricula and things like that. I also am a local practitioner. So I'm located in upstate New York. I'm in Ithaca, New York, and I am affiliated with my local organization here. And we offer homebuyer education and financial literacy, financial fitness courses, and courses on, workshops on post-purchase strategies and buying a manufactured home and Section 8 to home ownership and things like that. So financial fitness, financial literacy fits into all of those conversations. So that's a little bit about me. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to share a little bit about you. But first, let's just kind of go over what our agenda is. So I'm with you for the next hour or so. I do want to take a minute to do some, introductions and kind of know where you guys are at and what you're currently doing. And then we're going to talk about the importance of financial literacy, just in general in the work that we do. And then we'll get into some adult learning practices. We'll talk about those core financial literacy concepts. We'll talk about effective training techniques, facilitation skills, curriculum development, how to use resources well. And then we're going to do a little practice. So we're going to use a tool to do some interactive brainstorming a little later. It's called a Padlet. If you've never used it before, we're going to give that a try and see how it goes. I've used it a bunch. And so we'll kind of test that out and see how that goes. And then we'll have time, of course, for questions, and whatnot. But this really is an interactive session. So I'm going to share some information with you, but I know we have a lot of knowledge in the room. So we really look forward to the peer sharing that can happen in this setting as well. So if you could find the chat, top or the bottom, find the chat, open it up, let us know. We can see your name really on your moniker there, but if you could just let us know where you are and your role with financial literacy. So you can tell us your agency if you'd like, but what your role is related to financial literacy or financial education. What are you currently doing? Are you running, are you doing financial counseling? Are you running financial education programs? Just let us know just briefly in the chat if you would. And that way we know kind of what everyone is working on. And if you're having trouble finding the chat, let us know. Thank you, Joanne. Advocacy. So from babysitting up to advocacy. All right. Lakeisha. Hope through housing. Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, great. So Juan, your organization currently was certified as a HUD housing counseling agency. Great. Okay. And two HUD counselors on staff. That's awesome. So Lakeisha, Regional Director for Texas and Florida. We provide financial literacy workshops throughout the year for our residents. Awesome. Okay, Sarah, you are working on advocacy. Okay, great. So while you guys are filling that out, we are also going to launch a poll. Anna, do you want to launch our poll? So in the poll, and if you're, I might be able to do it. There it is. So finished letting us know kind of your role with your financial literacy work, but also if you could tell us a little bit by using the poll, a little bit about your financial literacy program currently. So are you currently offering classes specifically for financial literacy? The second option is, you're offering financial literacy as part of another program, maybe like my program with homebuyer education. And then the third one is, maybe you're not offering financial literacy work right now and maybe working on developing your program. So I'm going to jump back to the chat, and Nia, program coordinator, okay, within Houston, financial capability series, educational programs, great. Charlotte, first time homebuyer sales, great. Hermela, to assist our clients in case management with financial literacy, excellent. Sheldon, you guys are HUD certified housing counseling agency, Houston area urban league, great. And Rita, financial literacy counseling, awesome. Okay, how are we doing with our poll, Anna? We got good input. Great. Once we get good input, if you could just close that and show us the results. There we go. So looks like 50% of us are offering financial literacy as part of another program. Same. And then we got 42% that are not yet doing it and maybe thinking about developing. Excellent. Okay. And then we have a few that are offering specifically financial literacy. Okay. You guys, those who are specifically offering financial literacy, we are counting on you to share. I mean, really, all of you share your expertise. But if you have really a specific program, we know you probably have some extra expertise that all of us could benefit from. Okay, great. Last question, and then we're going to get into our content here. Is there one financial myth that you would like to debunk? So take a big step back from this moment right now and think about your program in general or the program you would like to start. And is there a myth out there that you think exists really solidly in your community, with the clients that you serve, that you would like to debunk? Let us know in the chat. That could be something like, all credit cards are bad, or I have to be really good at math to have a budget, or something like that. If there is a myth that exists within your work that you find just keeps coming back and coming back, let us know what that is in the chat. Why am I asking this question? The reason we ask this question is to think about the common obstacles for people being interested in and attending financial literacy programs, right? So there are a lot of myths out there. We know the value of financial education, and we're going to go over some of those in a minute. But as we think about what is holding people back, oftentimes it is these myths that we as educators and counselors can help to debunk. That's right, Nia. I love that. So budgeting means depriving yourself of something and eliminating something from your life, like it's a negative thing. Exactly. Great one. Also, Katie, you still need 20% down to buy a home. People absolutely think that that is the way that it is, and they can never do it, and they're not going to bother trying because there's no way they can come up with that kind of cash. Yes, I thank you for saying that, Nia. I tend to steer away from literacy myself and use financial fitness or financial education for that very same reason, because there can be some negative connotations to it. Absolutely, 100% agree with that. Lakeisha, a lot of people don't believe they can save money. That's right. They think you have to be rich, right, to save money. They just don't feel like they have enough money left over after bills to be able to save. Saving is seen as only working if you are able to save hundreds a month. Exactly right. Yes, these are great myths. I agree 100%. Thank you for sharing those. As we think about this and think about developing or enhancing, improving our programs, let's think about keep these myths in mind so that we know that part of our work is not just to educate, but also to kind of reinforce these other ideas. Yeah. And actually, yeah, I agree too. Yeah, that's just how my parents did it. So this is how we do it. We do what we know. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of financial literacy. This really leads us right into this conversation about why is financial literacy important. I'm going to pause for just a moment. I'm going to take a drink of water and I'm going to ask you to take a look at this slide and think about what you see on this slide. So just take a moment. Okay. So this chart on the left, this is a research, outcomes from a Pew Research study, basically showing the percent of adults who say they know a great deal or a fair amount about personal finances. Personal finances meaning saving money, budgeting, managing debt, investing, that stuff we're working on. So the bar at the top is, a lot of these numbers really stand out for their own reasons. So take a minute and take a look. I'm going to just address the one at the top, which is total in the US, just over half of us feel like we have a good handle on this. Okay. So if ever you need to, you know, prove maybe to someone that this is necessary or important, you could just refer to this study by Pew. It is obviously something that most, a lot of Americans don't feel like they're really solid in this space. Okay, so this is really important work. If you're doing it, that is awesome. If you're thinking about doing it, also awesome. So the data that we have out there informs us. It tells us what we need and what we need to be, addressing and offering within our programs. So just as we think about the importance of financial literacy affects just about everything that we do. Um, so it informs our decision making. Okay. And everyday life is really simple, straightforward things like budgeting for groceries, managing our debts, understanding our credit. Financial literacy or financial fitness also impacts our long term security. It is the foundation for our financial planning, which then, can include retirement, but also just achieving our goals. Maybe it's a material item that a person's interested in, like a car or a house, and that long-term security is very much impacted by our skills, our financial literacy skills. It affects economic stability. As we increase and improve our economic stability, that impacts our families. It impacts also our broader network, the people around us, the people we're affiliated with, our community that we live in. It definitely ripples out. Our economic stability impacts those around us. Financial literacy also reduces vulnerability. So, as we improve our understanding, our capacity, our learning, it helps us to avoid fraud and it helps us to avoid making costly financial mistakes. So things like really super high interest rates or unscrupulous lending products. Those things still exist out in the world. And as we become educated and we help our clients become more informed in this, it reduces their vulnerability to some of those things. It increases empowerment. So our overall well-being is absolutely just improved as we gain control over our finances. It reduces stress. It improves, just overall our overall well-being, and again ripples out to the rest of our network, our community, our family, and the people around us. Financial literacy also increases equality. So education really serves to support, broader issues related to fairness, and financial fitness is no different. So providing this service really helps to create balance in our communities. It helps to create balance in our organizations, and it's really just a critical piece of our of what we can offer. So that's kind of our, why we do financial fitness, why we might think about offering this as a service. And we are working with adults. So we also, in offering these sorts of programs, need to be thinking about the adult learning principles. Okay. The things that work with adults. That are probably very different than the things that maybe work with children, or teenagers or different age groups. So, knowing that we're working with adults, there are certain things we have to be mindful of. Most adult learners want their learning to have a purpose. Oftentimes, they have a problem to solve, or they have a goal that they want to achieve. So, that purpose of the learning is really, really in place, solid with adult learners. They want that learning to be relevant. They want it to be practical. They want it to match what they need, and to help them accomplish their goals. They want it to be experience based. So, what does that mean? It should be building upon what they already know. This can be really different from one person to the next, but that experience based learning is really important to know that we want to start somewhere and then we're going to build upon that and help people to really have that bigger understand their bigger picture. Self-directing, so there should be some autonomy in adult education. Definitely adults like to make decisions for themselves, and making those decisions really is key for them being comfortable in that setting. um, Being goal oriented is also another important component of adult learning principles. So, kind of aligning the goals to the motivation of the person. So, aligning the goals of the program so that they match what is motivating the adult learner that's in your class. And then, speaking of motivations, really understanding what the motivations are for these learners, what is motivating them, and then make sure that our programs are lining up with their motivations. And then finally, the active involvement. So, adults learn by doing. Adults want to be engaged. They will learn best when they are engaged and it is interactive. So there are many opportunities for discussion. There's many opportunities for practice. There's opportunities for brainstorming, problem solving, all of that within the financial fitness model. And so building those things into a curriculum or counseling or a program is really key to keeping adults engaged. So, if we can step back again and think about the program that you're currently offering or the program you're thinking about offering, are there any things that you can think of that you need to do differently that would that related to what we're just talking about, the adult learning principle? So the adult learning model, what works with adults, with teaching adults, as you step back and you think, okay, here's my program. Is there anything that you feel like you could adapt or do differently with your adult learning principles? You can feel free to share them in the chat. You can just think about it. I love hearing about it. As you can tell, I like to have an interactive class. So I love to hear about it if you feel like dropping that in the chat. But if there's something within your program, like, you know what, maybe we should be doing this virtually, maybe in person, is not enough. Maybe we need to be offering this virtually. Maybe I need to have more activities. Maybe I need to do something that's more hands on. So, thinking about your own program and maybe some of the adult learning principles that are important and what you might think about doing differently to enhance your program. We do have a poll here. And Anna is going to launch our poll in a moment. There it is. So we just talked a little bit about maybe doing things differently. Currently, if you are offering financial fitness, financial literacy education, or counseling, how are you doing that? What is your delivery method? This should be check all that apply. If it's not, pick your favorite or the one you do the most. So which delivery methods are you currently offering? Is it in person, virtual, hybrid, live streaming, self-paced online option? Are you offering your service in a language other than English? Are you offering closed captioning, interpretation, or something else? So take just a moment. Let us know which delivery methods you are offering. And Anna, when you feel like we are in a good space and we get some good feedback, good participation, you can let us know. Okay. Good. All right. There we go. All right. So delivery methods currently, most everyone, almost 80% is doing this in person. Okay. We got 36% offering it virtually, 7 as hybrid, 7 as live streaming. Love to hear more about these. 7% offered in language other than English, 7% with closed captioning, and then we had 14% with the self-paced online option. And we had one other, not to put the other person on the spot, but we would love to know what that means, because we are all here to learn. And I think we might have something to learn from you if you're willing to share that delivery method that's other. We'd love to hear it. So thank you for that. Um, as we think about these adult learning principles, keep this in mind. Just keep in mind what really works, what your best practices are. We're going to do a brainstorming activity together in a little bit. And we'd love to hear more about what you're offering and the tools you're using and the methods you're using. And we're going to do kind of a worksheet together in a minute. So make a little side note on that. And we will circle back to that in a moment. And speaking of side notes, so I should probably mention that we provided a worksheet to take notes on, which is a fillable PDF. Anna, is that in the Dropbox?
Yes, I emailed it out beforehand,
There it
but
is.
anyone who did not receive my email, I have dropped a link to download it in the chat.
She is on it. She knew what I was going to say. Thank you. So the worksheet, if you haven't yet seen it, it's just kind of a place to keep notes. Feel free to grab that while we're kind of working through stuff here. Okay, our next kind of topic that we're going to dig into here is our core financial literacy concepts. So there are a few um, basic kind of standard concepts to financial literacy and financial education that we need to be including, right? So the first one is budgeting and savings. So when it comes to budgeting and savings, there's lots of ways to do this with people. You can have a group brainstorm, you can share strategies that work, you can give tips and tips to success and some helping people like identify attainable goals and help them work through the math on how they're going to get there and how much do I have to save each week if I want to buy a car. You can provide those worksheets to people. A lot of them already exist. So if you're looking in a good spot, and you find a really good worksheet that already exists, you don't need to recreate the wheel. There are some that are already out there. One of them, which I'm going to maybe ask Anna to go back to, I think it was the beginning of our chat. One of the worksheets that already exists that I find really useful is one that's by Freddie Mac. It's a budget worksheet. What I really love about it is it has an online version and it also has a downloadable version. So you can kind of click on it and like work through the pages, or you can just download the worksheet. There it is. Thank you. You can just download the worksheet in a PDF form. What I really like about the Freddie Mac worksheet is, first of all, it already exists, so you don't have to do any work to create it. Secondly, it's super thorough. It's really well thought out. It's very broad. It has a lot of, items on there that like maybe your clients might not think of, or even you if you're interested in checking it out. So check out that Freddie Mac budget worksheet. There's tons of them out there. I don't mean to just pinpoint Freddie Mac here. Fannie Mae might have one, and I'm sure there's like 1,000 others out there from banks, but this is just one that I know of that I think is a good one to share. Credit is our next core financial literacy concept. If I can get there it is. Um, this is important to talk about in financial literacy. So, credit affects so much of what we do. It can affect whether or not we can buy a house. It can affect whether or not we can get a rental unit. It can affect whether or not we can get a loan, a credit card. It can affect interest rates. It can affect the cost of PMI. It can affect even jobs. Sometimes there are some employers that check credit. So, having that conversation about credit scores, credit bureaus, how we handle credit, how we pay our debts, super, super important concept to be covering in our financial fitness programs. We also have to be talking about debt. So, debt is a part of credit, but debt really is specific and it does stand alone. It merits its own chapter, its own focus, because debt. Sometimes people don't understand the difference between debt and expenses. And so making sure that there's some real clarity on the difference between what is a debt and what is just a regular life expense, but also helping people to figure out how much debt is too much, whether they're comfortable, and also how to pay down debt. So, having debt repayment strategies is really key. There's a couple big ones that are very well known, the snowball method and the avalanche method of debt reduction. So when we're talking about debt reduction, we mean, decreasing the amount of debt that we have. The snowball method is, you make a list, you do an inventory of your debts, you start with the smallest balance and you just pay off. You just really focus on 6 months or a year or whatever it takes to pay off that smallest balance. The minute it's paid off, you take that payment and you apply it to the next highest amount of debt amount, and do the same thing. Create a timeline. You're paying it off, and then again, once that's paid off, you take those two amounts that you were paying, and you go to the next highest amount that's due. That is one of the very common strategies for debt reduction. There's also the avalanche method, which is similar but starts with the interest rate. So you really focus on the highest interest rate and paying debts down that way. Another important topic is investing basics. So we have to be careful with a lot of these topics. We are not, you might be a financial planner or you might not be a financial planner. Oftentimes, financial counselors or housing counselors are not, certified in financial planning or something like that. That does not mean that we don't talk a little bit about the importance of investing and financial planning. This is one of the concept areas where it's really important to have a good resource list and able to make referrals and help people to figure out where to turn, like what are their needs in terms of investing or some financial planning, and then helping them to find that right person. Oftentimes, credit unions are really, you don't have to have a lot of money to open an account at a credit union. It's usually about $5. And oftentimes, a credit union has a financial planner within their staff that people can take advantage of. So that is one. If someone is, they just don't feel like they have enough money to even be thinking about financial planning. Oftentimes, there are very affordable options or free options through a credit union. And then the last concept that's really important is estate planning. And so this is really just planning for the future. If we think that financial planning, sometimes people are like, I don't have enough to even financial plan. People, it's like magnified with estate planning. People just don't even think they have an estate when in fact they do. If we have a bank account, we have an estate. If we own a home, we have an estate. So essentially, having some conversation with people about their future, their financial future, and protecting their financial future is a really core piece of the financial literacy conversation. Oftentimes, people really struggle with a lot of these concepts. And again, if we're not, maybe we're not going to go super deep into estate planning, but at least introducing that concept so that people know that There are things that we need to do to protect, if especially if you buy a house, you have any kind of asset whatsoever, to protect that, so that that asset goes to, if something were to happen to me, I want my asset to go to the person, someone that I choose, not someone that just gets chosen from somebody else if something were to happen to me. So just encouraging people to be thinking about that. um, Estate planning absolutely could be a standalone class, and oftentimes it does, but introducing that topic is an important one. Our next thing here to focus on is creating some effective training techniques and facilitation techniques. Those are two different things. So training and facilitating are two different things. But for sure, regardless of kind of which one we're talking about, having that work being interactive is really key when you're working with adult learners. So we want to make sure that we have interactive strategies for with our materials, interactive facilitation techniques, um, and interactive presentation skills, and all of these things, and making sure we have the tools and activities in place so that people can use these tools to help them accomplish their goals, but also to keep them engaged. So, a quick one just thing to think about as we think about interactive teaching methods. Um, one of the best things we can do if we're in an in-person class is to have some conversations at a table, right? So, okay, we have a worksheet and we're going to talk to each other a little bit. Just giving people that minute to talk to each other in a class, it breaks the ice, even if it's just 5 minutes, to kind of have some conversations and start thinking about what are we talking about? How do we talk about this? Um, the topic of financial fitness gets tricky because the topic of money is taboo, right? So, and also it's just inappropriate for us to be talking about anything specific related to our own financial situations. So we do have to be careful when we're talking about financial fitness, because we don't want people to disclose information that they shouldn't be disclosing. Yet we want them to have conversation and be able to ask questions and gain a broader understanding of financial fitness topics. So you kind of walk a fine line here between being interactive and not crossing a line where you're getting too personal and having people share things that are really not appropriate. So one of the best strategies for techniques really for training and teaching, especially in the financial fitness, you know, concept in that area, is using case studies. Case studies are anonymous. It's a person that you invent. You know the stories. If you're a practitioner, you know where the hardships are, you know what people struggle with. Invent something. You can make it a little bit exaggerated so it doesn't feel too painful. You can make it humorous. The person that has, 18 iguanas or whatever, like you can make it some like weird little thing so no one feels like, oh, they're talking about me. And put a case study out there for people to have the conversation. That allows people to have conversation about, okay, she's spending too much money on this. They could do this, they could do that, and help people, the client, the case study client, figure out how to budget better, how to save money, how to spend less, that sort of thing. So I really encourage case studies, especially in this topic area of financial fitness, because people really respond to it, and it allows you to put people together in groups so they can have conversations. That said, putting people in groups, if you're in a live session, usually works out okay. When you open your doors and people come into the classroom, they're going to self-select where they sit, right? They're going to come in, and if they're like arch rival is in the room, they're probably not going to go sit with that person. If you're in a virtual class, there are some risks to just throwing people out into a breakout room. So, I love doing, virtual. I don't mind virtual classes. I don't mind. I love doing both virtual and in person. I, as a trainer, generally never put people into breakouts unless they're selecting themselves in, they know how they can remove themselves out, or unless I'm working, in a train the trainer setting. But I live in a small town, so I don't just throw people into like, breakout rooms because it can go wrong. So you'll know your class best and what works best for your class. But just as we talk about case studies and using those as an interactive technique, some of these things work really well in person. Some of them don't work as well in a virtual setting. So you'll have to just kind of figure that out. For engaging presentations and visuals, a picture speaks 1,000 words. We know this. Use font that is big enough, but not too big. You want it to be 24 or 28 font so you can read it on the screen. It's not tiny. You don't want 10,000 words on your screen. You just want kind of the ideas. And giant words, aren't great to look at either. Generally speaking, left aligned is easier to read. So if you're designing, a PowerPoint slide, sometimes it looks pretty if it's centered, right? And the, words kind of go like this. But when you try to read that, it's less easy to read. So for readability, we always recommend that it's left aligned because that's what our eyes are trained to do, right? When we learn to read, we learn to read left to right. Facilitation skills. So, this really just comes with practice. It is helpful to think about what challenging behaviors might come up in your class. So, if you're offering a class, or even if it's one-on-one, especially as we talk about money, it is a difficult topic to talk about. So, people are, reserved. There's fear. They want privacy with good reason. Sometimes it's triggering. Sometimes it's traumatic. It is useful to come toward these conversations with some trauma informed, perspective, that some of these topics bring up feelings. If someone had a bankruptcy or they had a foreclosure, or some really traumatic or difficult situation arose with their finances, that can be really upsetting. So we really want to be focusing on outcomes, solutions, good practices, support moving forward, and making sure we, as practitioners, are really mindful of, and have that trauma informed approach, and have, just make sure we're remembering that people have personal situations that can be really difficult. So remember that with your facilitation skills, and how to kind of bring a conversation along past a tough point. Presentation skills, similar to facilitation, which is more kind of class management. Presentation is, how are you talking to people? So it doesn't matter if you're virtual or in person. Intonate, use your voice, use your body. If we sit and we talk monotone and we don't really get excited about it, it's hard for other people to be excited about what we're saying. So, a lot of this really just takes practice. So if you're new to this and you're just developing a course, it'll come in time. Make eye contact, speak directly to your class, learn people's names. All of those are just really good tips and strategies for presentation skills. And then the tools and activities, it kind of lines up with what we were talking about earlier with the interactive teaching methods, but definitely incorporating tools and activities. Hand it to people right out of the gate. Okay, here's the thing. We know that when people are on a webinar, they are going to multitask. Just give them, if you're doing this virtually, just hand it to them right out of the gate. Let people check out websites, let them check out the worksheet, get them involved in that way. It will keep them actually engaged in the topic. We are going to jump to a Padlet in a moment, not quite yet, but we're going to just try to populate this Padlet in a moment. And this is one of those interactive tools that I think is really helpful. Before we do that, I just want to talk for just a moment about, we talked a little bit about kind of having a trauma informed approach as we think about talking about money, because people have really stressful events that happen in our lives. We also need to have some cultural competency. So being aware that not everyone is like us. People come from different backgrounds. People come from different cultures. Sometimes they, are coming to our, programs with a different language. Their first language is a different language than English. And so having some awareness around that and how we talk about these things, and realizing that this could be really different in somebody else's world. Okay. So just, knowing who your clients are, who you work with, knowing maybe what their experiences are, and how we can be mindful of those differences and help people to just understand, what we're focused on now, but we can be, there to answer any questions that they might have. So as you develop your curriculum, we talked a little bit about resources earlier, and we already shared the Freddie Mac budget. There's a few things really to focus on if you're developing your curriculum, and even if you already have one, you just want to revamp. One of them is effective lesson plans. So your lesson plan, that is your guidebook. It takes time. I know it takes time to develop a lesson plan, but develop that lesson plan, have your class objectives, make sure you know what your content areas are step by step, what's your activities, or what activities you're going to do, know the purpose, know your step by step. The other thing that this does, especially if you put it on paper, is if something happens to you, someone else can step in and cover for you. So make sure, it is worth every minute you take to develop that lesson plan, a thorough lesson plan. It will make your job easier every time you offer a class or offer a workshop, or even just have a counseling session, to have kind of an order of things that you talk about. Those training materials, again, we want those to be interactive. They should be current. So make sure you're looking at them once in a while. If something is from 10 years ago, it may not even be relevant anymore. So, schedule a time that you're looking at your training materials, making sure that they're getting updated regularly. Look at your slides, be creative with your visuals. It's good to use humor. We got to, be sensitive, but if you can use something that's a little bit lighthearted, that keeps people engaged and kind of brings them back to the conversation. Last thing with training materials, please test your equipment, always, every time. So just because you teach in the same classroom, or you use the same computer, or you're always in the same, office or whatever, that doesn't mean that things can't go wrong. So take the time to test things out. Those reputable resources, in the worksheet that is, and I'll jump to this in a second. I'll show you what they look like. But in that worksheet that Anna put the link to in there, that we're kind of like, that you're working through, if you opened that up, there are multiple links to some helpful resources. I'm going to jump to it in just a second and show you what those look like, but there's lots of other reputable resources. We're going to have an opportunity in a moment to share some others if you have others. But just know that in that worksheet that the link is there just before the Freddie Mac one, there's a list of some reputable resources there. The last one here, as we talk about curriculum development, is adapting as needed. We had a little bit of conversation earlier about adapting. Think about your program, step back, adapt as needed. What is needed now? Do I need to start offering classes virtually? Do I need to start offering both? Do I need to start offering hybrid? Hybrid can be really tricky. How am I going to do that? So make sure that you're thinking about ways to adapt. Always, things are constantly changing with technology and just within the world. So definitely taking that time to think about those little adaptations can really help your program to grow and serve more people. Because really the goal is for us to serve as many people as possible with this information. Okay, so we are going to jump to the Padlet, and I am going to ask Anna to put the link in the chat, and we are going to watch it happen while we're doing it. If you are not into this, if you're really uncomfortable with jumping to a different screen, totally fine, no pressure. This is what I want to do for a couple minutes while I am jumping to these other resources. I just want to get us started. So what is this? This is a platform. It's called Padlet. There's lots of them out there like this. I love Padlet because it's really super user friendly. It's easy. I am not a tech wizard, so I get a little afraid of technology tools sometimes. So this one I think is a really easy one. So what I want to do here, if you click on this link that's in the chat, it's going to bring up the Padlet. We are going to do a group brainstorming. You'll see the content areas up here. There's budgeting, savings, debt, credit, financial planning, estate planning, and other. So down here, you see this little plus button down here. Click the plus, and you can add something. You can also click it right here. Add something in one of these categories. What do you add? What I'd like you to add is a specific topic or a specific tool or a specific activity or all of the above. Okay. So you're thinking about financial literacy, financial fitness programs. I'm going to offer a class. Okay. I got to talk about debt. What is a content area in debt? I am going to talk about debt reduction strategies. That's going to be snowball versus avalanche. Okay. And then you hit publish. All right. And then you see it's here. If you have a tool, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say, with budgeting, I have the Freddie Mac. Whoops. Budget. I can type budget worksheet. All right. And publish. So if you build this, if you would kindly jump in here, add topics, content, add your favorite tools, add your favorite resources, add your favorite activities. One of the things that's really cool about Padlet is once it's done, like in a half hour from now, I can create a PDF of everybody's ideas. So that's one of the things I really love about Padlet is that you probably know something that you always use for credit or financial planning or estate planning. Like, oh, I have this great resource for estate planning, or I have a great resource for, I know a game that's, a budgeting app or something like that, or we have a great budgeting app. We always use Mint or whatever it is. Jump over here, click on the plus. You can click on it up here at the top, or you can click on it down here and add your ideas. And it's just one way to do some peer learning. In a group like this, where everyone is kind of practitioners, this can work really well. The other interesting thing I think about, oh yeah, I love Every Dollar. That's a great one. The other thing that is really neat about Padlet is they have group brainstorming like this, but they also have there's a whole variety of interactive tools in Padlet. One of them is just mapping where you are. There's timelines. There's all kinds of really, I think, interesting things within Padlet that are kind of fun to try. You do have to kind of have a bigger group. It is hard to do a Padlet with like 3 people. But sometimes actually, if you have a really focused group and they want to do some brainstorming, this can be a good tool. So that's the Padlet. Please feel free to share whatever resources you have, whatever great ideas you have here in the Padlet. Based on what we get, we can share the results of this. While I'm here, I'm going to jump over and you will see I'm at the Freddie Mac budget worksheet. So this is the budget worksheet. On this page, you can download it here. All right. And then you can also just go and do the online form, which I think is really cool that they do this both ways. All right. So you fill it out, it does the math. So I think that's really nice. And I just like that both of those options are there because some people just want to get the PDF, right? Like just give me the blank worksheet and that's what I'm doing, and they've got one that's, an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know if you guys can see the spreadsheet, but there's an Excel spreadsheet. So, if you just click on that, it's, I think the Freddie Mac worksheet options are really nice. The other link that's in your folder is this website here, which has a ton of information on financial education practices. There's also Jumpstart, which is really geared toward kind of kids, but there's still some fun activities in here. The link to Money Smart, the FDIC's Money Smart is in there. mymoney.gov is there as well. So great. Thank you for that. All right. So I'm going to go back to our slides if I can find them. There they are. Okay. So feel free to jump into the Padlet even once we're done. I'll just kind of leave it open, and maybe people don't really have resources to share, and that's okay too. But if you have favorite tools for engagement, if you have best resources, if you have, activities that you just think really work the best, please feel free to jump back over to that Padlet and populate that, and we can share those results later on today. So I am going to stop talking for a moment. I'm going to ask you if you have any questions, wondering how you feel about using a collaborative tool. I just want to pause. I know I've just been talking for like at least 30 minutes and see if we have any questions about financial fitness programs, content, interactive activities, adult learning methods. I know it's a lot to squeeze into an hour. I haven't looked at all at the Q&A. If there is a Q&A, Anna, let me know if there is and if there's a question there. Okay. So not seeing any questions. Oh, good. Thanks, Marianne. Yeah, it is a cool tool. The Padlet, one thing about Padlet is that there is a free version. You can only make like 3 or 4 Padlets or something, but really, who needs more than that? I mean, I guess if you had a really comprehensive program and you used it a lot, you might, but that's just one option there. So if there's no other questions, feel free to just drop them in. I know we have a couple more minutes, but I'm happy to hang on and answer any questions you might have. But in the meantime, let's just talk about what's next. So, hopefully your takeaways really for today is to start thinking about the needs, what already exists, the need for financial literacy, and the need within your program. What might you want or need to change or adapt or add to your program to make it better? We talked about the adult learning principles. We talked about the concepts, the content. We talked about techniques and resources and how to build out content in each of these areas. It was quick, but we did it. Remember your resources. So we shared a few, but also check with your local banks, check with your local entities, and find out what kind of resources are out there. And then finally, take some action. What are you going to do next? So you have a planning tool, you have some resources. You can continue to add to the Padlet, and I can share that. One thing that that I always encourage within any learning group that I'm in is to stay connected. So I'm going to share my LinkedIn. Happy to stay connected. If you want to share your LinkedIn, please feel free to drop that in the chat. I have to drink water. Hold on. Sorry, it's dry. So sorry about that. But identify, what you're going to do next and your planning resources. And with that, Anna, if you want to launch our last poll, which is taking a moment to commit to what comes next. What are you going to do next? Where do we go from here? Let us know in the poll. We got about 1 minute left. What is your next step? Is it to update one or more of your activities? Is it to create a virtual class? Is it to create an in-person class? Build a resource list? Test a new tool on your colleagues? Oh my gosh, use your colleagues as guinea pigs. Is it to practice public speaking, jazz up your slides, or something else? I'm not sure what choice 8 is. Did I put that in
That's
there?
that's on me. Sorry,
Okay, I
y'all.
was like, I don't know. I might have done that or whatever. Or just pick choice 8 because, um, thank you for doing that. Love to see what your next steps are. So, Anna, anytime it looks like we've got a good representation, feel free to share those results. And I know we're at 2 o'clock and everybody needs to move on. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Please feel free to keep in touch. Okay, great. We got 64% updating one or more activities. We got 82% building a resource list, testing a new tool. Awesome. Love it. Love it. Thank you guys for that. And thank you, Anna, and everyone else there for having me. And hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Lakeisha. Thanks, Yvonne. Nice to meet you guys. Anna, I don't know if we need to stay on or if you've got next thing going.
Oh, we can keep going as long as
Yes.
needed. I'm going to stop the recording,
Okay.
uh, but feel free to stick around, everybody.
Okay. Yeah.